Welcome back to the Two Deep Coverage Podcast, guys. Week 2 recap. We're going to be going over everything that happened. Well, maybe not everything, but we'll be going over some of the best games and memorable moments of the week. We'll be going over the primetime games and a couple of the games that I thought were pretty cool, that stood out to me. But if anything, guys, let's get into the games. Let's see what we have leading up. It's a long season, but, you start thinking about the playoffs and the Super Bowl right away. So be sure to leave a like and be sure to subscribe. That way you can see what we have in the future. Let's get into it. But first, I have to talk to you about my friends and partners over at W Energy. Since 2021, they've been making the safest, cleanest, best tasting, crash-free energy drink on the market. This American-made, clean formula energy drink is made to give you a long boost of energy and concentration with no crash or slump afterwards. All flavors are unique and made by W, so you'll never find our taste anywhere else. With multiple limited time and hydrating flavors, you'll always find your next favorite with us. With all drinks having no sugar, no fillers or artificial colors and dyes, no secret or hidden ingredients, and of course being gluten-free, W is the best drink to hit the market in years. With every drink averaging out to be just $1 each, your pocket and body will thank you for making the switch to W Energy. Whether you want to switch it up daily or stay committed with your favorite flavor, W has all the products you need from packs, tubs, and even cans. Be sure to use the link in the description to get your starter sampler pack or whatever amazing product you choose with an extra 10% off using my code TWIZZLER. It's like the candy, but with a 2. Whizzler. Add some energy and focus back into your life today with W Energy. I'm on the phone today. I don't have as much on the computer. But let's get started. I want to be a little more casual today. I don't want to really be, I'm not trying to be a presenter. This is just my YouTube channel. And I like talking about football. I love football, man. I grew up wanting to be a pro football player. Anyway, let's get into it. So, the first thing I want to talk about was the Thursday night game. The NFC North shakeup. I feel like this year things are completely different. So, Green Bay is going off. They are just destroying everybody. Their defense looks really good. They've kind of always been a defensive team, but then, you add Micah Parsons, and then you become, just a, top 5 defense in the league? What are you going to do? They look amazing, and I hate that. Jordan Love looks healthier this year. He looks like he's really throwing the ball well, and they have a lot of room to improve from what I hear. I don't really watch them because they're Green Bay. I just don't really watch very many Green Bay games, to be honest with you. So, going off what I saw, I was really thrilled. Thrilled as a Bears fan to see how well they're doing this year, especially since they were pretty bad in division last year. I was kind of hopeful that they'd be bad again. But what are you going to do? They beat 2 good teams already this year in the Lions and the Commanders. Now that Jayden Daniels is hurt and out for some games, we'll really see how they finish the year and see if last year was kind of like a flop. Or I don't want to say a flop, but kind of like a C.J. Stroud freshman rookie season type thing. But the Lions did come back in week 2, and they dominated my Bears, 52-21. I saw somebody in the YouTube comments, because I didn't see this anywhere else, the Bears had 22 3-and-outs in their first 2 games. And it's like, well, if you give the other team 11 possessions, I mean, on average, they're scoring 4 points a possession. So, mostly they're getting field goals if you think about it. But, Caleb Williams has to play better or else he's going to get sat down quick, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the thing is that when you are the number 1 pick, there's a certain expectation that people have, especially since the guy that got drafted number 2 also was a Heisman winner and also went to a historically bad team and also is in a historically hard division. I mean, the division that they came from literally had the Super Bowl winners. And in the last 22 years has not had a repeat winner, the NFC. What are they? Are they the East? NFC East, the Eagles in them? So, Caleb Williams has to step up because Jayden Daniels has stepped up. Michael Penix has stepped up. Now the Falcons look really good in the last 5 games he's played. I think he's won these first 2. I can't remember that end of last season for them, but, in the last 5 games he's played, he's looked really good. But Bo Nix took the Broncos to the playoffs in their first year in cap hell, after the Russell Wilson thing. J.J. McCarthy is not looking good, but now he's injured as well. So was he playing at his full potential to begin with? Was he limited by an injury he didn't know was there? We can get into a lot of that. He doesn't look very good, but he also has the least amount of games played from any of the 2024 draft class. So Caleb has to figure it out, or he's going to get sat down, because honestly, they're going to be the worst in the division with the number 1 pick again. I mean, they had Trubisky, who was 2, Fields, who was, I think he was 5 or 9 or something. I mean, you can't have this many first-round, high-end quarterback talents, and you end up picking wrong every single year. Pardon this video interruption. We have some breaking news. Come and join the new Twizzler Discord, a place to hang out with friends, make new ones, and find a like-minded community. Find new people to game, chat, or even debate with. We have everything you want and need, from Minecraft, Call of Duty, Fortnite, GTA, and our special areas to watch and talk sports. Be sure to join today and stay up to date with the community and all the content we have. Follow the Linktree link in the description, and we'll see you soon. Back to the video. But anyway, let's move on to kind of a game I didn't think I was going to talk about much, but I want to talk about it because there's kind of a few different facets to it here. But Jacksonville losing to the Bengals. Now, the reason I thought this was a big deal is because Joe Burrow went out halfway through the game, and Jacksonville actually was in control of the game for most of it, and then the next thing you know, Jake Browning and the Bengals win the game. Jamar Chase had like 150 yards receiving. I'm sorry, but you can't lose to them if they don't have Joe Burrow. They have a consensus horrible defense. They, really only have high-end offensive talent on the edges. I mean, they don't really have a high-end offensive line. They don't have like a super great tight end. They don't, they're not like, their backfield doesn't have like a Pro Bowl type talent. Like realistically, if Joe Burrow is off the field, you have to beat the Bengals. So Jacksonville losing to them, I think, just kind of shows they're not going to be that good. There was one thing I wanted to talk about during the game. It was, they think they were on like the 15 or the 20-yard line, and the Jags are going down the field. They're in the red zone, and Trevor Lawrence throws this ball to a receiver that I don't want to say he was open. There was coverage around, but he could have caught the ball and been down there. I think he would have got a first down. But Trevor Lawrence actually throws the ball high over his head. Throws it high over his head. And the guy jumps up, and he kind of like has to, try and get a hold of it, and it goes by his hands. And after that play, the camera pans, and Liam Cohen is pounding his chest. I mean, like hitting it hard, like he's really a coach out there, man. Pounding his chest. Throw it to his chest. I'm sure they go through it in practice all the time. Throw it to his chest, because if he threw it to his chest, he could have caught the ball and got down for some yards, but it didn't happen. The Bengals offense might be unstoppable, though, because with, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they're catching balls regardless who's throwing it to them. I could step back there myself, and I could probably get, 300 yards passing on a good day. It's crazy. It's crazy. The thing that I'm thinking about is if Burrow is out, Jacksonville's not going to be a contender, but if Burrow is out, what are their chances look like? Because he's going to miss 3 months of the year, so let's say he missed 12 weeks. He comes back week 14, and they have 3 games left to play, 4 games left to play, and they're, let's say they're at 500 with 4 games left to go. Moving on, I'm going to talk about this game from last week, and then we're going to talk about them a little more at the end of the video, going over the Bears matchup. But the Cowboys are a real threat, at least in their division, okay? Because I don't think them playing against good teams outside of their division is going to look very good for them necessarily. But I think when you prepare and you play your divisional teams so often, you actually end up, the games are tighter. Home field advantage matters a little more, and away games matter a little less when you're there so often. Yeah, the fans cheer you on and everything, but it's almost like a practice facility type, because you're there. You're there twice a year, every year. Travel there more often than any other team. Well, you're not there twice a year. They come to you once too, but you're there all the time. And you think the Commanders and the Eagles played in the playoff game last year at the Link, so I think the Cowboys are going to be kind of dangerous. I mean, they played the Giants really well. It was a long game, and I think Russell played really good for what he's worth in the first 5 weeks of the year. But the Cowboys defense just has to turn up a little more. I mean, you can't let them get 37 points. You can't let any team get 37 points, because it's hard to score 40 yourself. They had to do it in overtime, but they did it. They got the win. The Cowboys are looking good. Their run game came out of nowhere. Most people, including myself, thought, man, last year was bad. They had a number 15 Ezekiel Elliott for part of the year. He didn't even travel to a couple of away games, and they got rid of Pollard to Tennessee, and I'm like, man, what are these guys gonna do? Like, they don't have anything going on. Like, realistically, what are they gonna do running the football? And this guy from Denver, see, my real life problem outside of anything, a YouTube or whatever, I have a bad time with names. So if I meet somebody, it might take me 4 or 5 times of genuinely meeting them, having full conversations before some part of me remembers their name. So I think it's Murray. From the Broncos, who wasn't very good on the Broncos, came to the Cowboys and now is running really hard behind their O-line. And Dak is having MVP-type numbers already. Throwing for a lot of yards, touchdowns, very few interceptions. He had 50 pass attempts this last game in New York, and the stat I remember hearing was, I think that was only maybe the 4th or 8th time in his career that he's done that. Less than 10 times that he's thrown for 50 pass attempts in a game. But in my opinion, I think that's what the Cowboys need. I think they need Dak to just throw the damn ball. When he came into the league and he was so electric, like his first 3 years and the last few years with McCarthy, the reason he was so good is because he was slinging that fucking thing, man. They haven't had a run game for a long time, to be honest with you. Pollard was really good for a while, as that second back, but just like when they transitioned away from Elliott to Pollard to be the main back, their second back became better again, and then they let Pollard go, and now their second back is probably going to end up being better than their first back again. That's just how the Cowboys... Look, guys, I'm going on a rant now. This has been going for a while already. What I have to say is the Cowboys' running game is one of the weirdest things in the NFL. It's one of the only teams I've noticed that their main back struggles to get meaningful yards per attempt, or first downs. And their second back comes in and runs over everybody. I don't mean necessarily literally, Tony Pollard's a smaller guy, but he'd be able to kind of step out on you, and the next thing you know, he's 35 yards down the field. But every other team has just a strong middle back, or and then a smaller dude that catches screens or does outside runs, or they have just a solid 1-2 punch that kind of do everything, and there's just an obvious 1-2. But I feel like in Dallas, if you're the number one back, you better be careful, because you're going to be off the team next year. They just get rid of them. I've never seen a team. I mean, my parents are Cowboys fans, and much of my family are. So growing up, especially, living next to Texas, you see a lot of Cowboys games, a lot of Raiders games, a lot of Broncos games. So watching the Cowboys growing up every year, I'm like, why do they keep getting rid of their premier back to try and have their second back run? But then once they become the primary back, the same thing happens. It's like, okay, well, maybe what you need to do is have some first down passes, and then once it's, 3rd and 3 or 2nd and 6, you can hand it to your second guy who, and now that they're tired, he has some more time to run. But anyway, man, their rushing attack for the first time ever is good, and Dak is throwing the ball a lot. So I think that's why they're going to be good. I mean, they scored 40 points. A lot of people are saying, including myself, I'm pretty impressed with Brian Schottenheimer. Like, he's really impressed me playing and coaching these players, especially without Micah. Their defense looks better than I thought it was going to. They are stopping the run this year. But what are you going to do? You play a division rival, they're going to play well. So, good on them, good on the Cowboys. They look dangerous to maybe go 4-2, 5-1 in division. I don't know if they're going to beat the Eagles at all, but I see with a weak Washington team and an even weaker Giants team still that they're definitely going to win. All right, guys, let's move on to the fourth game I wanted to talk about. This is the Broncos and the Colts. Now, the reason this game is... it's kind of controversial, I guess you can say. The Broncos threw the game away with that leverage call at the end. And Sean Payton kind of came out and he said, hey, I shouldn't have been so aggressive on the coverage of the kick. Like, it was a 60-yarder. I didn't have to have, a press package on that. Just let the guy miss it. It's either going to go in or it's not. Most of the time you're not going to block a kick that has to go high and fast anyway. You're just not going to have enough time. So he's like, I should have not been aggressive on it. Should have held him back, and he missed that 60-yarder. I mean, bad. The Broncos won the game. Bo Nix could be playing much better than he is. The second half of the game looked kind of lackluster, a little lackadaisical. But the thing is, last year at the beginning of the year, after 3 games, people were like, okay, he ain't it. Excuse me. Get him out of here. Get him out. He sucks. Sorry, guys. I was up at 4:30 a.m. today. They want him out of there, the beginning of last year. But then he came into his own, and they finished strong at 9-8, and they looked good. So that's another thing, too. I mean, they scored a lot of points, and they did bad at the end of the game. They came back on, and they were on the road, and, the Colts kind of have that magic. They have that Jim Irsay, 2 home games. They're probably going to be on the road this week. I think it's going to be a big test to see, how are the Colts going to play on the road? How is Jonathan Taylor going to run if he's outside? And then also, how is Daniel Jones going to play? Daniel Jones, as good as he's played in New York on his good days and as good as he's playing in these first 2 games with the Colts, people wake up on the wrong side of the bed. People get nervous, people get in their own head, other things get in their head. We'll see what happens with Daniel Jones and the Colts. One thing I will say is that they're pushing and that they're staying in games. No team in the Super Bowl era has not punted in their first 2 games. Now the Colts haven't. A lot of people are mirroring them to the Saints of last year. They went 2-0, and I think they scored 90 points in the first 2 games or something, and they looked amazing. And I think they ended up 2-10 before they won their next game, and they finished 5-12 and drafted pretty high. I think it was 8th, 7th, 8th. So you don't really want to put all your eggs in the basket after 2 games when there's 18 weeks of the season. There's 18 weeks. If you get through 9 weeks and you have your bye and you've played 8 games and you're 6-2, I'll give you your flowers. Like, yeah, no, Daniel Jones is him this year, and the Colts are a good team. Now, a lot of people have said, including myself, I thought that the Colts were a better team than they should have been, or they should have been better than they have been. Excuse me, because they have a good roster, kind of like an Atlanta type situation. I think the same thing about Atlanta. You have Kyle Pitts, you have Drake London, that's his name. You have Bijan Robinson, and then you had Kirk Cousins come in. And before that, you didn't necessarily have a bad player. I think it was Spencer. No, that's the Saints quarterback. They had Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder isn't horrible. Kind of like the Falcons. The Colts have good players all over their roster, but they don't have a good game manager. That's why they went and got Kirk Cousins, is because he was a good game manager. He could use the assets the team already had and just play well. Well, he's coming off an Achilles, and he's slow, and he just wasn't really playing well. So now Penix is in, and you can see that, they're 2-0. They look good. They're in people's power rankings, top 10s and top 8s, and they're looking good. Well, the Colts are kind of trying to use that same theory. If Daniel Jones can come in and be a game manager and not have to be a playmaker, because the roster in New York, his years playing, the best piece they had was Saquon. Well, Saquon, I'm sorry, as much as you want to run, you also have to pass block, and you also have to catch passes out the backfield. So if your effectiveness is on the ground and in the air, well, a third of that is taken away from pass blocking, and if you're really efficient on the ground, another third of that is taken away from screens and short routes, wheel routes, things like that, flats. So I think in New York, the Daniel Jones didn't really have a lot to work with. Now you could say that that's not true. You can say that, well, they won their first year. What happened the next few years? And yada yada. I think the thing is that Daniel Jones honestly might have just lost his confidence there. You go and you win a playoff game, and then you lose, and you're like, all right, next year we're gonna come back, and we're at least gonna be in that playoff picture. And then they win so few games, and every game is horrible. They're getting sacked out the ass, and he might have just effectively lost his confidence there. They said, well, he looks so good in practice, and he's one of the smartest quarterbacks we've ever seen, and he's so good in the weight room. I mean, that guy looks buff as shit. But once it comes to the games, something else happens. You lose your confidence, you lose your processing time, you lose your patience, your stability. You can see that a lot with Caleb Williams, and we'll talk about him in a minute. We still have one more game to go over today, but if you lose your confidence, I think that's what's happened to Caleb Williams already. When you lose your confidence, your clock ticks fast. Down hike, you get the ball, and you look at your first read, and he ain't open. Or you look at your first read, and he's so early in his route, you can't even determine if he's going to get open. Another thing they say about Caleb Williams is his coverage breakdown and stuff from the line. But let's say you go in your first read, hasn't even gone through his route enough to tell if he's open, and you back up and you look at your second read, and he's clamped. You're going to run away. You're not going to back up or take a beat or a pump and then see where that first read goes or check it down. He just starts moving his feet. He just gets nervous and starts moving his feet, because he has no confidence. Like if he just had his check down, most of the time you have a check down that's open or lightly covered to where you can get the ball out. It'll be a completion or very few loss of yards. Let's say you don't throw away the ball ever. You back up, you make your first read, he's clamped. Second read, clamp. You just set your feet, you check it down, and you let the ball go. But once he makes that third that third year, once it's time to make that decision, his feet just aren't moving and he lost confidence, okay? And I think that's what happened to Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones lost his confidence, so he was airmailing, he was throwing at the ground, he was worried. He was just genuinely worried about the ball coming out of his hand. It seems like now on the Colts, like, he went into a team where he wasn't going to be the starter, and he won that starting job, even if Richardson was a little hurt or whatever. Anyway, and I haven't heard a damn lick about Anthony Richardson since he lost that job. Since he lost the starting job, I have not heard a lick about him. Nobody's talking about how he's doing in practice. Nobody's talking about where he's going to be a free agent. Nobody's talking about trading for Anthony Richardson. It is crickets for that guy. I mean, he's effectively out of the league already. You know, he might as well hang it up because nobody's even talking about him. Nobody's like, well, who's the next team that could develop? Nothing about Anthony Richardson. It's insane. There's more about Cam Ward being talked about than Anthony Richardson right now. And Anthony Richardson just started for 3 years. So that's how you know they would rather have Daniel Jones, who's literally a joke to everybody, than Anthony Richardson, who's literally a ghost now to everybody. He has stopped playing games, and now he's literally not even a topic of discussion. So we'll see how Daniel Jones does. He's done great for the Colts. He's played well in New York. He's lost his confidence, and he seems to have got it back. And he's playing well. Okay, let's go over our last game, and then we'll just end the video because it's been a long one already, I can tell. Since we've talked about Caleb and everything already, how he's ass. The Buccaneers look like a playoff killer is what I have written down. And I wrote that for one reason. They're winning every close game. They played a division rival in week 1 who they're going to be, in a shootout for the division over, and they beat them. Last year they got swept by Atlanta. I heard that at the beginning of the year before it started, and I went, the Bucs got swept by Atlanta last year. A double Kirky. I don't even think they had Penix playing in the second game yet, and they got double swept by a Kirky. Going down and winning 20-19, those are the games that you have to win. Those are the games that you have to win. The ones where it's like, 35-10, where you'll end up playing Carolina later in the year, and they'll walk those games and whatever. Those games really don't matter. Those wins aren't as important to the grand schemes of winning 20-19 against Houston. Let's say they lost 19-17 or 22-20. That loss would impact them way more than a win against an easy team or a blowout type win would. So the fact that they're winning every close game is awesome. Okay, the end of game management for them in the last 2 games has been elite. It's another reason why they're a playoff killer. If they get the ball at the end of the game, Baker knows how to create opportunities. He's going to get first downs on third downs. He's going to get you to the red zone, and he's going to get the ball in somebody's hand, okay? And Buka is a great receiver already this year. I mean, he's caught 2 or 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games, and he looks to be a great target since Evans and Godwin are going to be the number 2 targets, 1 and 2 targets once Godwin gets back. There's going to be somebody running free. You have, I think it's Cade Otton is his name as your tight end, and then, Baker himself is dangerous with his feet. So you really have 5 offensive linemen. You have 2 great running backs. I didn't even go over them. 2 great running backs. And then you have Baker who can run too. So in my genuine opinion, it's like they have on their 11-man offense minus their 5 offensive linemen, they probably have 8 dudes that can make plays. 8 dudes on the Bucs offense that can make plays out of 11. And you have 5 offensive linemen. You have 2 running backs that can switch out. You have your quarterback who can run and throw the ball, just amazing. And then you have 5 weapons you can get it out to with your receivers and your tight ends. So it's like I just don't see how the Bucs are going to have a hard time winning easy games and how they're not going to be able to pull out at the end of hard games. So I need to go over their schedule because they're honestly probably going to be my number one contender for the playoffs this year in the NFC. It's been coming for a while. And you know what? If they play the Eagles again, they might win. The last 2 years they've played them, so it's just insane. And the last point I want to make is the passion. Okay, like I said, Baker's running and throwing expertly. They're playing well on offense and defense. Defense especially looks really good too. But the thing about it is that the Buccaneers' offense is even better than it usually is. So that's what the thing that's elevating this team. And when he made that run, Baker, and he was like going back and forth on the field like he was snaking it, and he had like that kind of weird fall and he like grabbed his leg or whatever. Then he popped up at C.J. Gardner-Johnson and just like got in his face and was screaming at him. Like, that is the guy that you want to have on your team. I do not want Caleb Williams getting up and rolling his eyes and checking his fucking fingernails after he gets sacked. Yeah, I agree. I want him standing up in the face of the dude that was just on him and screaming. I mean, that's the kind of quarterback I want. I want that. But regardless, guys, we're going to end it there. Let's see how long we've been going for. I think it's been about 30 minutes. Yep, 30 minutes. Going to have to cut some stuff. Make sure you go and follow all the links that you've seen throughout the video. Make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to this channel. That way you can see everything we got going during the week. Leave a comment. If you think I'm an idiot, bro, leave a comment. If I said something wrong, leave a comment. I'm on a limb here. I don't really have too many things scripted other than these talking points. So, if I'm wrong off a draft pick like the Saints, I said they were 7 or 9. Let's say they drafted 11th, or I think the Bears actually drafted 11th, so that was really wrong. But let's say they drafted 11th, and I said the wrong number. Just tell me. Say, hey, dickhead, they drafted this year. I'll say, hey, man, thanks. Okay? I'm not worried about being wrong. I do care about making sure that you guys enjoy. So we'll see you later on. I think next week, or this week, I'm going to do my fantasy video on Saturday. So be on the lookout for that. I will see you guys later. Peace out.